we're gonna lose this game. This might be a 27-21 type of situation here, and as disastrous on the tech
Our
end.
guest looks dark.
Whoa. Come on, man.
I mean, he's
famously Cuban.
Screen is
perfect. You know what? This is all bad. This is all bad. I'm gonna shoot. I'm gonna shoot you straight here, pal. We're losing this game if we don't turn it around.
Do you see the screen? Can you hear anything?
No, I don't. I can't. Obviously, I'm looking at the same screen you are,
yeah,
pal.
but remember, I couldn't hear anything last interview, so I didn't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck over here. But yeah, our guest is his screen is black, so I don't know if there's anything I can do on that end right now.
Wait, hold on, wait.
Oh. Let me see.
We are toast.
He's looking good, man.
We are. I mean, Jorge, that Dan Poppy, you're working it out there on the West Coast.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Like, what's going on?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but we can hear you.
I can see myself
now, so we can imagine where you're at.
I'm in a very LA situation, so I'm in Hollywood, right off of Sunset Boulevard, literally pulled over at like on the side of the road because I just left a meeting.
Oh wow, Sunset Boulevard! Look at that.
Got a Sunset Boulevard tattoo. Yeah, we can't see your beautiful face there, George.
I don't think you actually even said who was on with us, because.
Well, it's Jorge
weird.
George Sedano, who's called FSU multiple times this season. You know him from his work down here in the market. Legendary Miami sports personality, and he is now. Did you make that echo louder? Why'd you do that? And now he's doing great things for ESPN and ESPN LA and the ACC network. George, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us, even if it's just your voice.
Boys, I'm happy to be here. I can see myself just fine on the screen, and I see you guys to my left. I think I look okay. I mean, I'm dressed in like a button down because I was in like a more professional meeting. If I would have worn something more my style, a little more casual, if I had the opportunity. But nonetheless, I feel like I look all right.
You know what? Hearing your voice describing how you're dressed with a black screen is giving me kind of bad thoughts. I'm thinking back to like when we were kids, we used to have to call those hotlines, you know, those late night hotlines, and people would describe how they looked on the phone.
I never had to call those.
Yeah, well, yeah, D-Money and I are at a different age range and group than you are, Mike. So I do remember what he's talking about. It was more of like my junior high days. But I thought you were gonna go with AOL chat rooms or something like that. ASL, you know what I mean?
They killed dial-up today. Finally, AOL stopped their dial-up service today. George, thank you again for making yourself available. You're always so kind to us over here at CanesInSight. You've seen this FSU team up close and personal. They've played crap competition, but they also have one of the better wins on their resume in the nation, especially when you consider how Alabama looked at Georgia. Alabama unprepared. I think we all can understand that week one, but still a really good performance for FSU. What is this team? Very confusing season so far, I think.
Yeah, look, I think they're good. How good are they is the question. There are levels to this, as you guys know. And are they just good? Are they a great team? I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a lot of questions about how good they can actually be after what we saw in Charlottesville the other night. So certainly the Alabama win, to your point, is an incredible notch in their belt. The next two opponents, which are the games I did, were basically sacrificial lamb games. Now, look, they did what you're supposed to do in those games, which is completely dominate and obliterate those opponents. And I do think that they've got the shell of what is a good to very good team. Deuce Robinson is a real problem at 6'6", 200 and something pounds. He's, I think, better than Johnny Wilson potentially. And, we'll see if he has the similar production. But I think from a skill set perspective, he's better than him. I actually think it's funny because Mike Norvell said this to me too. He has the route running of a Keon Coleman with the size and understanding how to use his body positioning of a Johnny Wilson. So he's very good. Mekhi Danzy, converted running back to wide receiver. I mean, that guy, you want to talk about fast and big and strong. I mean, he's the 400 record holder in the ACC in track and field. So we've seen him a number of times, including that Alabama game with big reverses. They use him there. In the game against Kent State, they used him a ton in the passing game. So they've got weapons, Lucas and Squirrel White, et cetera. They've got speed. Castellanos is a guy that if you let him out of the pocket can create big problems for you. And then defensively, I think that they've got a secondary that's very athletic. They take some chances and they're aggressive, and that's Tony White's style. It's an attacking style with the 3-3-5, although they do run a 4-man front at times in the games I did. I think they're better positioned than they've been, certainly in a minute. Certainly better than last year by a large margin. But, between Tony White and Gus Malzahn as the coordinators, I do feel like they're also a more competent bunch as well from a coaching staff perspective.
George, you were around the building, obviously calling these games. The vibe heading into last year's Miami FSU game, totally different. Felt like from the outside, just because they knew they didn't have a chance. It seemed like they were almost trying not to lose by too much, the way they played defense and the way they protected their quarterback. It seems now, even with the tough loss to Virginia, and I know you called the games before that, the energy is different, and there's much more of a sense of purpose and hope behind this experienced quarterback in Castellanos. So how do you feel just the energy around that building and that coaching staff and those players when you talk to them?
They're reinvigorated. There's no question about it. And you could sense it very early on. I mean, granted, we got there the week after they beat Alabama, so there is a noticeable difference in the way that they were kind of moving around. But I'll give Mike Norvell credit in this regard. He changed his approach in a number of ways. And, clearly he let go of 2 coordinators that helped him win 12 games previous to that, and brought in 2 new guys, a guy in Tony White who heading into this season had 4 consecutive top 25 defenses at Nebraska and Syracuse. And considering where Nebraska has been recently prior to him and where Syracuse has been, those are pretty interesting feats, I would say, and pretty big accomplishments. And then look, we know Gus is good. Like, we know what Gus is capable of. And I think because of the familiarity Mike Norvell has with Gus, there's a level of comfort that he can just turn the reins over to Gus. For those that don't know the history, they were on the Tulsa staff together. Gus was the offensive coordinator and assistant head coach at that particular time, and Norvell was a GA. So that's how far back their relationship goes. But I do think there is a sense of the trains are running on time. There's a purpose to everything they do. He even told us and I mentioned this on the broadcast, that they tailored their practice schedule before the Alabama game and during training camp, and made sure that they had the right amount of rest and the proper amount of specific work on how they were going to treat the offseason heading into that big game against Alabama. And then look, they had 2 games after that were opportunities to get young guys opportunities and get them some playing time. They had a bye in there as well too. So they are healthy. And I think that, again, I was surprised at the way it went down in Virginia. Like, I thought it would be a close game, but I thought they were going to pull it out. And a credit, should go the other way, right, to Tony Elliott and what they've been able to do, particularly from an offensive perspective. But just to finish off on FSU, I feel like, again, there's just more experience in the room from a coaching perspective. And I think that they've done a nice job of identifying players that fit what they wanted to do in those particular styles for those coordinators.
All right, well, let's talk about Miami's roster. I know you've been working a lot on Saturdays, but you've had the opportunity to see this team in some standalone windows, and it's looking a certain way, George. This Miami team has that look. It has the talent. And I think we're at the point now where everyone concedes that if these 2 teams play their best game, Miami wins this 8 out of 10 times at the very least. Miami's certainly more talented, but do they have the right mentality to be able to go into Doak Campbell in an electric atmosphere on a Saturday night and just simply take care of business?
Short answer is yes. I do believe they're capable of that. I do believe they're the more talented group. I mean, you can make the case that, and I'm not the first person to say this by any stretch of the imagination, but they have the best lines of scrimmage in the country. You can make the case for that. And that's where you win football games. I know that everyone, talks about the quarterback and the flashy positions at the skill positions, et cetera, but you win games in the trenches. And that's what this coach has been certainly preaching and building on little by little, brick by brick over the first 3 seasons of his tenure there at the University of Miami. And look, I go back a long time with Mario Cristobal. I'm not hiding that by any stretch of the imagination. I am a big supporter of Mario Cristobal's vision. When he was at Oregon, I did a number of his games when I worked on ESPN Radio and did their Pac-12 package. And so I was there to see what he did. And they went to 3 Pac-12 championships. They won 2 of them. And he did that taking over a team that was 4-8 before he got there. So this is a guy who knows how to build a program, knows how to build a roster. And in that time as well, at Oregon, he went over there to Ohio State, let's not forget, and ended their home game winning streak. So he's been into hostile territories and gone on to win games. So if you're asking me if I think the team will be focused, yeah, they're a Mario Cristobal team. Like, they're going to be focused. That's not going to be the issue. I think that turnover luck is a big part of stuff, and I'm a big believer in this. And it's funny, I learned this from Chip Kelly in my time briefly around him here at UCLA. And he had this saying that, and you know, I'm sure the math bared this out because he wouldn't say it otherwise, but if you win the explosives battle, right, and you win the turnover battle, those 2 things combined, you will win 95% of your games. Miami has the ability to win both of those, although the turnover battle sometimes is just luck. And I'll say this, for Florida State, they are explosive too on offense. We saw that against Virginia. We've seen that against Alabama, and then against Kent State and East Texas A&M too. So I think they can be in the game with Miami. I think Miami has the superior talent, and I think over time that wears them down because they're better up front. But do I think they win? Sure. But you guys know this. These are rivalry games for a reason. The Florida game, yes, Miami was able to pull away, but that was a close game. That was a 1-score game in the 4th quarter. And I feel like this game will be similar to that because these kids have just been around each other, played against each other on multiple levels over the years, and you always have to factor that stuff into the equation.
George, so you called these games. I was reliably informed by Mike during the show that it's not Castellanos, it's Castellanos. How many times did you have to practice that before you called the game to make sure you didn't slip up on the broadcast?
Well, I did not have to because I also called his games when he was at Boston College. And I remember specifically asking him the first time we did their game there a couple of years ago. And I asked him, you know, is it Castellanos or is it Castellanos? And he was the one that corrected me. And as a matter of fact, he told me at the time, you guys don't have to call me Thomas either. You can just call me Tommy. And everyone calls him Thomas. But since then, he prefers I call him Tommy. So I've been calling him Tommy. But yes, it is Castellanos. But I only knew that because I did some of his early starts at Boston College.
Did you try to correct him? Because D-Money hasn't stopped trying to correct him on this show.
I mean, okay, so I did bring up, I'm like, bro, you know, Castellanos, you know, Hispanic, like there's not a lot of Hispanic quarterbacks that could be good branding for you. Like I did try to lean him in that direction, but he just kind of laughed and shrugged me off. So, you know, I left it at that.
I want to welcome Pete here briefly because Pete informed me of something that I wasn't made aware of. This wasn't in our group chat, George. Our former quarterback, the great Cameron Ward, now playing for the Tennessee Titans, he mentioned something in an interview that kind of shook me. Hashtag this is bad. Pete informed George of what's going on between the quarterbacks.
So as D-Money pointed out also, because, you know, this made a huge difference to me when I said this, but Cam Ward and Thomas Castellanos share a quarterback coach, but just this week in an interview, Castellanos said that Cam Ward has been calling him, giving him advice after games. I said, I don't love it.
I don't like it.
Mike said he doesn't love it either.
Don't like it.
And D just, you know, brushes it off as it's, you know, because they share the quarterback coach. Your thoughts?
I mean, look, I get on the surface why you don't love it. And listen, you know, Cam Ward had an amazing season at Miami, but, you know, Cam Ward had 1 season at Miami. This quarterback coach, and I know a lot of these quarterback coaches that work with these guys. I don't know the specific coach that works with Cam and Thomas, but yeah, like there is a bond with these guys. There's a lot of workouts. There's a lot of time together. So, I mean, I get it. But I also get why you would not like it. I mean, 2 things can be true.
George, the secondary in particular, how do you – I imagine it's going to be tough for FSU to get a lot of pressure on Carson Beck, just given their body of work to this point and where Miami is up front. the matchup between Miami's receivers, who, we've talked about in the chat, it's been documented, you've talked about it, is just, this is going to be a question mark area for Miami going forward, the explosive plays. With Florida State and their defensive backs, how do you see that matchup playing out?
Well, like I said, they're pretty good back there. They may gamble a little bit, but they're good back there. And Jerry Wilson is a good DB. They've really unlocked Earl Little in a way that I think other teams clearly wanted to or were unable to. Tony White, to his credit, challenged him. And again, these are things I've mentioned on the broadcast previously. He would kind of mention to him, hey man, 5-star bust, what's going on there? And jokingly with him, just to kind of rattle him, and not rattle him, rile him up rather, not rattle him. And he would say, look, we invested in him in a way, and in this defense, we have allowed him to take ownership in a way that maybe other places weren't willing to, or maybe he was not ready to. I don't know what transpired at other places, but we know the skill set that he has is incredible. So I think, he's a guy, Tony called him the spine of the defense for them. And, he plays that rover position. So he's back there as a safety. He kind of creeps up on the line of scrimmage. He's a guy that Miami, I'm sure, will have circled in a big way. And again, is the leader of that secondary group. So between him, between Wilson, between a couple of those guys that could be available for, I think Barker's coming back, I think, for this game. So they have some guys back there, that's for sure. And with a younger group with Miami's wide receivers, it's going to be a test. I think that'll be the case for sure.
I have a question for George here as it pertains to the explosiveness that you said Miami is capable of. We haven't really seen that this season. USF, we saw it flash there. This is a defense that might allow that to happen. D-Money is of the school of thought that we just play our game, run the ball, don't ask much of the quarterback. We get out of this stadium alive and keep moving on with our season. I don't think Carson Beck is this game manager that D-Money is purporting to put him in this kind of box for. I think the opportunities to take shots downfield are there, and I think the risk is worth the reward, quite honestly. Carson Beck showed against USF that he likes our weapons and wants to take those chances. He probably fell in love with the notion of that a little too much against Florida and passed up some checkdowns. But we have a quarterback here that can make some plays, and I know you saw them against lesser competition, but you can burn this defense. We just saw Chandler Morris do it.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be opportunity for that because, again, you play against their aggressiveness, right? You use that to your advantage. And I think because of that, I think that there are opportunities there for sure. But, look, I think that Carson Beck is still he's got CJ, right, who's an experienced receiver. But, really, when you look at Miami's receiving group, I still think it is a bit of a question mark. I think that you have to kind of see that evolve over time. But there are a few quarterbacks that I would rather have back there in a situation like this than Beck. I mean, you talk about the amount of big game experience that he has. What is he, 11-3 against top 25 opponents or something like that? In his time there. Yeah, I've heard that stat is out there. But I think he's seen it all. So I trust him implicitly in these situations. I think last year at Georgia, and I think people are starting to come around on this and starting to realize the offensive line was not very good. He had all the issues with the skill position players, second most drops in the country, and that hurt them in a big way and hurt him, I think, in a big way, both from a draft stock perspective and certainly from a production perspective. But to the benefit of Miami, that actually helped them to land him. So I'm confident that they'll be able to figure this out. I also don't think you need to be playing your best game per se, in early October. I think that they can win this game with a A- or B+ performance, to D-Money's point. But I do think, Mike, you do need to take some shots. Like, you can't just run the ball and play it close to the vest the entire game.
Let me just, of course, Mr. Ryan's mischaracterizing the testimony here. I'm not saying he's not going to throw. I'm just saying he doesn't need to be Superman here. There are going to be open receivers.
Right.
He's such a smart quarterback. He's going to have protection. You can make big plays after the catch just by making simple plays. But I want to ask you, George, because as one of the few people in the chat and that I've seen that correctly diagnosed Mendoza as a potential star player early. In fact, I believe you were the first one that I heard project that
I
kind
was.
of upside.
Yeah.
The term game manager, people are using it like it's a slur. If you're not a good game manager, you are not a good quarterback because you can't get your team to the winner circle at the end of the day. So is that term overused as a negative?
Oh, it certainly has a negative connotation. I don't think there's any question. It's funny, like if you go back to the origins of Tom Brady, he was a game manager.
Thank
You know
you.
what I'm saying? Like think about those. Go back and watch yourself some early 2000s Tom Brady. He is absolutely checking it down. He's not taking a ton of shots down the field. He is playing it safe in every way, shape, or form. And then he gained more confidence, and he became Tom Brady. Now, I'm not saying Fernando Mendoza is going to be that, but yeah, I saw Mendoza. I had him a ton last year. I did a number of their games. You could see a number of things. You could see the skill set. I also do know the quarterback coach he works with, and he's one of the best. Particularly with college kids, right? Like his first guy was, oh my God, his name escapes me right now. Alabama, Carolina Panthers quarterback right now.
Oh, Bryce Young.
Bryce Young, yes, local LA kid. He was with him since the like 7th or 8th grade, for God's sake, and really started to work with a bunch of kids thereafter. And now he flies all over the country to work with kids, including Mendoza. And his name is Danny Hernandez. And so I saw the work ethic too. I think that it's funny. Like I remember doing a Cal game. I'm trying to remember what game it was. It wasn't the big game because I did that one, the Stanford one too, but it was before that. And maybe they were playing NC State or someone like that. And I remember him coming out before walkthrough by himself and just sitting there kind of going through like his progressions, like visualizing everything. And I remember videotaping it and sending it to his quarterback's coach and being like, did you tell him to do this stuff? And he's like, yeah, he's a super like detailed guy. He wants to go through it in his own head first, and then he applies it with his guys. Like, yeah. So I mean, I think he had the makings of a guy from a mental standpoint that could make it work and do the things you need to do at a high level to be a really good quarterback. And he's got like size. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And he can scoot in a way that I didn't think he could scoot, with his legs. So yeah, I think he could be a good quarterback. Now, I don't know if I'm putting him in the first round category like Mel Kiper is right now, but do I think he could potentially have an NFL future? Yeah. Do I think he's a really good college quarterback? No question about it.
Let's get a score prediction from you here, George.
So I think there'll be some points scored potentially. I'm going to say Miami 30, Florida State 20.
Cover.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Great teams. I don't see how a team that has the physical limitations that FSU has hits pay dirt more than 3 times in a game against Miami. I just don't see it. I do see how Florida State wins this game, and it's us being wrong about the Miami Hurricanes, which can be entirely possible. But I do think that this Miami Hurricane team is different than the other ones that have gotten our hopes up. There was a top 10 matchup in 2013 where Miami was number 7 in the nation and the point spread was 21.5 and we got smoked that game.
They covered.
Yeah. This Miami team feels a little bit different than the other ones that might have been fool's gold, George.
Yeah, listen, I think this team is for real. Miami is for real. I think Florida State is good, as I mentioned, to start this thing off. And we'll find out how good they are as the season progresses. But Miami has, look, they should win the ACC, okay? And then after that, let's see what happens. But I think they are the clear-cut favorite, in every way, shape, or form at this moment to win the ACC, barring some sort of catastrophic injury to Carson Beck. I think that feels like where they should be. And if you do that, then you're probably going to be one of those, top 3 or 4 seeds in the college football playoff.
George, appreciate you joining us from Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard, buddy, right here in good old Hollywood. Now I got to drive like an hour just to get home because it's LA and there's traffic.
It used to be Andy Garcia was the Hollywood Cube, and I think you've taken over the city and put the flag
listen.
down.
I love Andy. I've never been more starstruck than when I got to meet Andy at a Laker game a couple of years ago and tell him I was Cuban. He could not have been nicer. He probably will never remember who the hell I am, but I will always remember how he reacted to me. So I loved it.
You're gonna be remembered as an LA guy. I mean, it's sneaking up on us. And
I mean, I've been here almost 10 years now. Yeah.
You've been out there longer than you were down here.
Well, on air, yes. I have been on longer in LA than I was in Miami. Now, obviously I lived in Miami for 30 plus years. But I've been in LA for almost a decade now. It's kind of crazy. And that's why when I come back to Miami, I'm like, bro, I'm sweating bullets out here. I'm not used to this humidity anymore. I was at that Notre Dame game and I was like, thank God I was in like shorts and a t-shirt.
We saw you at Las Rosas for the victory party. We got to keep that.
That's right. I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to keep that alive. George, good talking to you, buddy. Give the best of my family to your family. Not
all right, boys.
To
my family, you mean? Yes, and the same to you. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good show.
See you, George. See ya. I got to tell you, fall brawl been a bit of a disaster.
We got brawled today.
We got brawled.
We got brawled.
We want to go 1-0 every week, and we went 0-1.
Guests were fantastic. Yeah. Fink was a great one. Sedano, obviously a total pro.
Fink just actually shared me I don't have it here, but he showed me PFF just put out Miami is the highest graded D line in the country right now.
There you go. Thank you, Fink.
Yeah.
Still helping the show from away in Kentucky.
It's the only time I've ever left here being like, bad show.